The galaxy was watching. For centuries, Earth had been part of the Galactic Council, a group of advanced civilizations working together to keep peace and order across the stars. But now, Earth was leaving. No warnings, no negotiations, just a single message broadcast across the universe. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. This decision is final. The message echoed in every council chamber, every news feed, and every diplomatic station. The reaction was instant. Shock, anger, fear. Varric Zane sat alone in a shuttle, staring out the small window as the massive form of Virilia Station grew closer. It was the largest space station in the galaxy, a floating city of steel, glass, and gravity rings. It had been his home for over a decade, back when he served as a diplomat. Now, it felt foreign. His orders were clear: retrieve all Earth-related data from the diplomatic archive and return home. Earth was cutting ties, and it wanted to leave nothing behind. The shuttle's landing lights flashed as the autopilot began docking. Varric leaned forward and picked up a small black case. Inside was his clearance badge, still marked with Earth's symbol, a rising sun above a blue arc. But this time, it wasn't next to the Council's crest. That symbol had been scratched off. The door hissed open. Varric stepped into the docking bay. No one greeted him. In the past, Council staff would meet arriving envoys. Now they barely looked at him. Some turned away. Others stared with cold, blank faces. It was clear Earth was no longer welcome. Varric made his way through the long corridors of Virilia. Everything looked the same. Silver walls, soft lighting, and the low hum of energy flowing through the station. But the feeling was different. Tense, unstable, like walking through a room full of broken trust. He reached Earth's diplomatic wing, a quiet zone near the outer ring. It was nearly empty. Desks were cleared, lights dimmed, and flags taken down. Only one person was waiting: Commander Lynn Serev, Earth's lead security officer on the station. She stood by the entrance with her arms crossed, dressed in a dark utility suit. "I wasn't sure they'd send you," she said. Varric gave a small nod. "I wasn't sure I'd come." Lynn stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This place isn't safe anymore. The Council isn't taking the news well. Some members are pushing for action. Fast action." "I'm not here to argue," Varric replied. "Just to finish what we started." She led him into the archive room. It was sealed with high-level encryption. Varric placed his hand on the scanner, then entered his final access code. The doors opened, revealing rows of servers and glowing panels. Every record Earth had stored on the Council was here. Years of diplomacy, trade reports, military pacts, and private communications. He inserted a data drive into the terminal. "Starting transfer," the system announced. The lights blinked as the files began copying. Varric watched the progress bar move slowly. 50%, 60, 70. Then, suddenly, the lights flickered. The console went dark for 2 seconds, then came back on. But the transfer had stopped. Error. Transfer interrupted. External command override detected. Varric's eyes narrowed. That shouldn't be possible. His earpiece crackled. "Varric," Lynn said, "something's wrong. Doors are locking across the floor. We're being cut off from the main network." Varric didn't wait. He yanked the drive from the port and turned toward the exit. Before he could reach the door, it began to close, a thick steel barrier sliding down fast. He sprinted forward and dove through, hitting the floor hard on the other side, as the door slammed shut behind him. He groaned, stood up, and looked around. Emergency lights flashed along the corridor. Alarms were silent. But he knew this was no accident. Threx Vorn, High Chancellor of the Galactic Council, ruthless, patient, and always 2 steps ahead. If anyone wanted to keep Earth from leaving cleanly, it was him. And now, Varric knew, this mission wasn't just about retrieving files. It was about survival. Varric Zane moved quickly through the dim corridor. The station lights flickered above him, casting long shadows on the walls. The steel floor echoed with each step as he ran. Behind him, the security doors were sealed tight. Someone had locked him in, cut him off from the shuttle bay. He tapped his earpiece. "Lynn, do you read me?" No response. Just static. He was alone now. Varric turned down a side passage, heading toward the service tunnels. He had studied Virelia's layout for years. He knew its shortcuts and hidden routes. If he could reach the old maintenance shafts, he might find another way out. As he moved deeper into the lower levels, the station changed. The polished walls gave way to bare metal and rusted panels. Pipes hissed. Lights buzzed overhead. This part of Virelia had been abandoned for years, left to scavengers and forgotten workers. He slowed down, watching every corner. It was too quiet. Then he heard it. A faint sound. A shuffle. A click. Someone was nearby. Varric pressed his back against the wall and waited. Footsteps approached. Slow. Careful. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It wasn't a council guard. She was tall, with silver-gray skin and short dark hair. Worn boots. A torn jacket. She carried a small device in one hand and a stun pistol in the other. Her eyes locked on him instantly. "Who are you?" she demanded. "I could ask you the same," Varric replied, raising his hands. She didn't lower her weapon. "You're not council. You're not crew. And you're definitely not supposed to be down here. I'm from Earth. Name's Varric. I'm trying to leave." At that, her eyes narrowed. "Earth? You're the reason this place is going crazy." "Maybe. But I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just need to get back to my ship." She tilted her head. "Not gonna happen. They shut down all standard routes. You're lucky you haven't been caught already." "Then help me," Varric said. "You know this station. I can pay you." The woman hesitated. Then she holstered her pistol. "Name's Naira. I don't do favors. But credits are good. And I hate the council more than I hate strangers." Varric nodded. "Then we have something in common." Naira led him through the tunnels. They moved through tight spaces and old service halls filled with broken machines and thick cables. Along the way, she explained what she knew. After Earth pulled out, Threx ordered a Level 4 lockdown on all Earth assets. Your people on board were forced out. Some arrested, some just disappeared. Varric clenched his jaw. So he planned this. "He always plans everything," she said. "But it gets worse. I've been tapping into some old comm lines. The council isn't just mad. They're scared. And scared people do stupid things." They reached a hatch leading into an old cargo bay. "We can rest here," Naira said. Inside, the room was dark and empty, lit only by her small lantern. Varric sat down on a crate and opened the black case. The data drive was still there, but it was incomplete. The transfer had stopped at 72%. "It's not enough," he said. Naira looked over his shoulder. "What's missing?" "Strategic files. Defense plans. Communications between Earth and the Council. If Threx has access to them, he can predict Earth's every move. And if you get them first, then Earth has a chance." Naira leaned against the wall. "You really think your planet can survive alone?" Varric didn't answer right away. "No, not alone. But we can't stay chained to a council that sees us as a threat just for thinking different." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "You sound like me." He looked up. "What happened to you?" Naira's face darkened. "The council erased my world. Not with bombs, with silence. They let it fall, did nothing, then scrubbed it from the maps. I was a kid. Now I live here." Varric nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." She shrugged. "Don't be. Just help me hurt them." Varric stood. "Then help me finish where I started." Naira smiled slightly. "All right, diplomat. Let's get your files. Then we both burn this place down." But before they could move, an alert flashed on a nearby panel. "Unauthorized personnel detected in Sector 7C. Activate pursuit drones." Naira looked at Varric. "They found us." Red lights flashed across the walls. A low hum filled the air. "Pursuit drones," Naira said. "We need to move. Now." Varric followed her through a narrow side tunnel. The old cargo bay was no longer safe. They ducked beneath hanging wires and stepped over broken floor panels. In the distance, the mechanical sound of drones grew louder, metal limbs clicking, scanners beeping. "Where are we going?" Varric asked. "To the old archives," Naira replied. "Off-grid storage, not part of the main network. Council doesn't monitor it anymore." "And what's there?" "Answers." They turned down a rusted hallway, passing long dead lights and damaged control panels. Naira punched in a code at a sealed door. With a heavy hiss, it opened. Inside was a dark room filled with silent terminals, dusty consoles, and cracked display screens. It smelled like metal and old air. "This place hasn't been touched in years," Naira said. "But some of the original council data might still be here, records they never erased." Varric moved to a working console and inserted his drive. The screen flickered to life. Lines of code scrolled by. Old messages, canceled operations, restricted files. Then one file caught his eye. Project Veil, initiated by order of High Chancellor Threx Vorn. Varric opened it. What he saw made his stomach turn. It was a weapons plan. Not a bomb. Not a fleet. Something worse. A signal weapon. The project was designed to emit a pulse from orbit, targeted at Earth's planetary defense grid. It wouldn't destroy anything. It would turn it off. Silent. Invisible. A forced shutdown that would leave Earth wide open to attack. "They're not planning war," Varric said. "They're planning surrender. Instant and bloodless." Naira looked over his shoulder, eyes wide. "They'll just walk in, take control. No one will see it coming." "This was the plan all along," Varric whispered. "They let Earth leave. But they never meant to let us go free." He copied the file to his drive. Just then, the lights cut out. "They're jamming power," Naira said. "They know we're in here." The door behind them slammed shut. A loud clang echoed down the hallway. "Trap?" Varric asked. "Trap," Naira confirmed. She grabbed a crowbar from the floor and pried open a vent on the wall. "This way." Varric followed her into the tight metal shaft. The space was barely wide enough to crawl through. Behind them, they heard footsteps. Not drones this time. Real ones. Soldiers. "They're not playing around," Varric muttered. They crawled for what felt like minutes until Naira kicked out another vent cover. They dropped into a service room filled with pipes and steam. "We can reach the docking platform from here," Naira said. "But it's not going to be easy." Varric held up the drive. "This changes everything. We can't just leave. We have to warn Earth. They'll never see this coming." Naira nodded. "Then we better move fast." Suddenly, metal arms smashed through the wall. A drone burst into the room. Its red eye focused on them. Naira fired first. The stun blast hit the drone's core, but it kept moving. Varric grabbed a pipe and swung it hard, knocking the drone into the wall. Sparks flew. Another drone entered from the side door. Varric and Naira ran. They reached a narrow lift at the end of the corridor. Naira slammed the button. The door creaked open, and they dove inside. As the lift rose, Varric leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "We have the data," he said. "We know the plan." "Yeah," Naira replied. "But Threx knows we know." Varric stared at the blinking light on the drive in his hand. That single device held the truth, the Council's secret weapon, the betrayal, the trap. "We have to get this home," he said. "And fast," Naira replied. "Because next time, they won't send drones." The lift doors opened with a soft chime. Varric and Mara stepped out onto an upper level of the station, closer to the old hangar bay, but still deep within council territory. The air was thicker here. Security patrols were everywhere. "We'll never make it through the main corridor," Naira said, peeking around a corner. "They're blocking every exit." Varric looked down at the data drive in his hand. It felt heavier now. This one device could change everything, if he could get it off the station. "We need a back route," he said. "Anything we can use." Naira nodded slowly. "There's a side path through the utility wing. It's risky, full of traps and old systems, but it connects to the hangar through an old maintenance shaft. Lead the way." They moved fast, ducking through access doors and side halls. Every few minutes, they stopped to listen. The sound of boots echoed in the distance. Threx had sent real troops now. No more drones. They'd reached a narrow corridor. Pipes lined the walls. The lights here were dim and flickering. "This leads straight to the hangar," Naira said. "But there's a problem." She pointed to a glowing red beam cutting across the hallway. "Security lasers. They'll slice us in half if we trip them." Varric frowned. "Can you disable them?" "Maybe, but I need time." He checked the corner behind them. Voices were getting closer. "You've got 1 minute." Naira pulled out a small toolkit and dropped to her knees. Sparks flew as she worked fast, pulling wires from a control panel and rerouting power. Varric kept watch. The voices were louder now. Come on," he whispered. Finally, the red lights blinked off. "Done," Naira said. They rushed through the corridor and into the hangar. It was massive. Rows of small shuttles lined the walls, their engines cold. "There." Naira pointed to an old scout ship in the corner. "I've flown that one before. Still works, barely." They ran to it, and Naira began powering it up. Varric climbed into the co-pilot seat, glancing at the hangar doors. A loud alarm sounded. Soldiers poured in behind them. "Go," he shouted. Naira slammed her hand on the controls. The ship roared to life, and the engines lit up. As gunfire hit the hull, the scout ship lifted off and shot through the closing bay doors. They were out. For now. Earth's orbit came into view hours later. The planet looked peaceful, clouds drifting, cities glowing softly on the dark side. But Varric knew peace was a lie, not with Threx's weapon in play. They docked at an underground base in the Martian colony. Earth's resistance leaders were already waiting. Varric stepped out, holding the data drive high. "This is what they didn't want us to see," he said. "Threx plans to shut down our defense grid. Not with ships or firepower. With silence. One signal, and we'll be wide open." The room fell silent. "Are you sure?" one commander asked. Varric nodded. "I saw it with my own eyes. Project Veil. It's real. We either act now, or we lose everything." The resistance leaders argued. Some wanted to go public. Others wanted to hide and prepare. But Varric stood firm. "We can't run. We can't beg. We left the council to stand on our own. If we don't defend that choice, we were never free." Naira stepped forward. "And I'll help. Not because I owe you, but because I know what happens when no one fights back." The room grew quiet again. Finally, one of the generals stepped up. "Then we fight." The meeting ended with a single order: prepare for the first strike. Varric looked out the window toward the stars. Threx would come. The council would send ships, and Earth would be ready. For the first time in a long time, he felt something real. Hope. The council fleet arrived without warning. Dozens of ships appeared in Earth's orbit, sleek, black, and silent. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They just hovered, watching, waiting. In command centers across Earth and its colonies, alarms blared. Civilians were moved underground. Defense platforms powered up. The planet held its breath. Varric stood on the main deck of the Martian resistance base, eyes locked on the screen in front of him. The largest ship, the Virex, Threx Vorn's flagship, stood at the center of the formation. "They're not here for peace," Varric said. "No," Naira replied beside him. "They're here to turn Earth off like a machine." The Council sent a transmission. A cold, formal voice filled the room. "This is High Chancellor Threx Vorn. Earth's exit from the Galactic Council has been marked as unlawful and dangerous. To prevent further instability, your defense systems will be disabled. Submit, and there will be no violence. Resist, and the consequences will be on your hands." Silence followed. Then, one of the commanders turned to Varric. "What do we do?" Varric stepped forward, his voice calm but strong. "We send a message back. One they'll never forget." An hour later, Earth responded. Not with surrender, but with action. Using Naira's help, resistance engineers had traced the activation signal for Project Veil. They knew where it would come from and how it worked. With that, they built a decoy, a false version of Earth's planetary grid, programmed to absorb and echo the signal back. The trap was set. "We're giving them what they expect," Naira explained. "Then we bounce the signal back at their own ships. They think they're turning us off," Varric added, "but we're cutting off their control instead." The plan was risky. If it failed, Earth's real defense grid would go dark, and then it would be over. The countdown began. Threx's ship opened its signal relay. A quiet wave of energy pulsed across space. No fire, no missiles, just silence. The signal reached Earth's outer satellites. The decoy took the hit. Then it responded. A sharp pulse shot back toward the Virex. Fast, invisible, and deadly. Systems inside the ship flickered. Their own control matrix crashed. Two nearby vessels lost power completely. Chaos erupted. "They're exposed," shouted one of the Earth commanders. Now, Earth's defense platforms locked on. Fighters launched from hidden bases on the Moon and Mars. A sudden burst of light filled space as Earth struck first. Controlled, precise, but firm. They weren't aiming to destroy. They were proving a point. On board the Virex, Threx stood in silence, his eyes cold. "They outplayed us," said one of his aides. He didn't answer. He watched as his ship struggled to recover. Systems flickered on and off. Communications were down. Power levels dropped. He narrowed his eyes. "Pull back," he said. "But pull back." The Council fleet turned and retreated. No shots fired from them. Just silence again. But this time, it was Earth's silence that held power. Hours later, Varric stood in front of a transmission screen, addressing the galaxy. The signal was open, uncensored, and sent to every Council world. "This is Varric Zane, speaking on behalf of Earth. We did not choose this fight, but we will not run from it. We left the Council to stand free. Today we defended that freedom. We ask for peace, but we are ready for more if peace is denied." The signal cut. The message had been sent. Varric sat down. He was tired, but for the first time, he felt like the fight had meant something. Naira joined him. "You think they'll come back?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Eventually." She smiled faintly. "Then we'll be ready." The Council fleet was gone. For now, Earth's skies were quiet again, but they weren't the same skies as before. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the space between storms. Varric Zane stood on the balcony of Earth's Unified Defense Command in New Geneva. Below him, construction drones flew in tight lines, rebuilding the city's shield towers. Workers moved fast, reinforcing bunkers, reprogramming satellites, and preparing for what everyone now knew was coming. The Council would return. He turned as Naira approached, her boots tapping lightly on the steel floor. She held a tablet in her hand, scrolling through reports. 3 colonies have declared full support, she said. Venus, Titan, and Arcadia Base. They're joining Earth in the stand. And the others? Hesitant, scared. Some are waiting to see who wins. Varric nodded. They won't have to wait long. He looked out across the horizon. Ships were taking off in the distance, some heading to supply lines, others to border patrol routes. Earth was building an alliance, not just with humans, but with anyone who was tired of the Council's rule. Varric still remembered Threx's voice. Cold, controlled, powerful. But now, that voice had been challenged. Earth had pushed back and survived. We bought time, Naira said, but not much. I know. She stepped closer. You're not the same man who boarded Virilia. Varric didn't answer at first. Then he looked at her and said, that man believed in systems, in diplomacy, in quiet solutions. Now I know the truth. What's that? You can't reason with a fist. You have to open it first. Naira smiled faintly. That's not bad for a diplomat. They walked inside the command room. The screens showed activity across the system. Defense grids live. Patrol routes active. Civilian protection plans in place. General Yana Reeve stood at the center table. She turned as they approached. We've confirmed it, she said. Threx is regrouping. He's calling in allies. This isn't over. We didn't expect it to be, Varric said. She nodded. But we are no longer just defending. The colonies want leadership. They want someone to show them there's another way. If we don't step up, Threx wins without firing a shot. Varric looked around the room. These people weren't soldiers by choice. Most were diplomats, engineers, scientists. But they had adapted. They had stood their ground. Now, they had to lead. I'll do it, he said. Not for power, but to protect the freedom we fought for. Yana placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's begin. The message went out that night. A new coalition was forming. Earth would lead it, but it wouldn't be a council. There would be no high throne, no force rules, no hidden control. Each world would stand equal. Each voice would matter. And together, they would resist any force that tried to silence them. Not just the council. Anyone. Outside, the stars glowed above Earth's sky. Naira stood alone, looking up. She had never planned to stay this long. Never thought she'd care about a world that wasn't hers. But this fight was more than planets and politics. It was about choice. She turned as Varric joined her. Think we really have a chance? She asked. He looked up at the stars with her. We do now. The galaxy wouldn't change overnight. The Council would strike again. There would be battles, losses, hard choices. But humanity had made it stand, and it would not kneel again.